guys? This is the Spin Zone with Brian Lewis. Now, I just covered Ohio State, Penn State, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate for the Penn State fans, but, so be it. Win the games. That's all I got to say. I'm not here to say anything more than that. But the next topic is actually something that is very similar, a program that has had similar pitfalls as Penn State, and that's Miami. Um, to start with the Miami Hurricanes, the last 5, 6 years. Let's actually go over the Miami Hurricanes because before we even mention Cam Ward being, let's not even talk about QB1. Let's not even talk about the fact that he's potentially the Heisman favorite. I think we have to talk about Mario Cristobal and the job he's done at Miami because yes, even though SMU is and should be the primary story in the ACC because of the start that they've had, the amount of they've played well, they've earned it. However, it's crazy to me because I remember growing up and Miami was like the biggest deal. Like I'm old enough to remember Willis McGahee, Ed Reed, Clinton Portis, Frank Gore, Sean Taylor, Jonathan Vilma. Vince Wilfork. So basically, if you watch the whole U Part 2, that's my generation of Miami football. And even going into like Greg Olson, that whole brawl with FIU, with Antoine Barnes, like that's the generation of Miami I remember. Kellen Winslow. I could just go on for days. And as a Buckeyes fan, no, I'm not going to feel sorry for that 2002 national title. No, not at all. But what I will feel sorry for is looking at how mediocre Miami has been. So this is actually the last 20 years since their 2004 season. So since the 2003 season where they won the Big East at 11-2, since they've gone to the ACC, 21 years. 9-3, 9-3, 7-6, 5-7, 7-6, 9-4, 7-6, 6-6, 7-5, 9-4, 6-7, 8-5, 9-4. That 10-win season in 2018 with the in 2017 with the chain, the turnover chain. 18 7-6, 19 6-7. 2020 they were 8-3. That was with Tyler Van Dyke, I think. 21. Actually, no, that was before then. Van Dyke. Oh my God, who's the quarterback then? Oh, I'll remember it later. 21 7-5. 22 5-7. 7-6 last year. Then 9-0 this year. So you're telling me right now, Miami Hurricanes are having their second best season of a win total since the Red Sox broke the curse? You're telling me in the last 21 years, they've only won 9 games 4 times. 6 times. I'm corrected. 6 times. But I also think that Florida State, also improving. LSU becoming a more dominant program. Auburn, obviously winning a national title. I think all of that had to do with Miami losing too. Because the recruiting bases and Alabama's dominance too. Alabama dominated in certain parts of pockets in recruiting in Southern Florida. Like the state of Miami that Schnellenberger and Jimmy Johnson and Dennis Erickson cultivated and worked with has been definitely broken up for years. Now Miami getting Cam Ward opens up the floodgates a little bit. So if you're looking at this Miami team right now, Cam Ward is, obviously transferred from Washington State. And keep in mind, his Washington State numbers were impressive. He completed 65% of his passes in 2022, 23-9. And then he was 25-7 last year with 66.6. So he completed 2/3 of his passes, and he's outperforming that this year. And he's already at 3,100 yards with more touchdowns than he did the previous 2 seasons. He's already had 6 interceptions, but again, I think the Washington State with the air raid, you're not throwing into the same type of windows that he's throwing into Miami. I think this is a more pro-oriented offense. Now, let's look through some of the games here. Because I like looking at the game logs, especially as an NFL draft. Anyone that does mock drafts, you look at the game logs, you look at the highlights, you're looking at any type of games, any type of trends that you see. But I'm looking at Ward right now, and this is the performances. So against Florida, 26-35. 3 touchdowns and a pick. I'm not going to count Florida A&M. Ball State, that's 5 touchdowns. South Florida, 3-1, and South Florida's not bad. Virginia Tech, 24-30. I saw that game. And the 2 picks. Virginia Tech played a really good zone blitz in that game. And then for some reason, they got away from the zone blitz. They got burned on a yard after on a yak, like a crossing route. Big yards. It wasn't a touchdown. He got burned on a 41-yard play. And then all of a sudden, Virginia Tech just got away from the zone blitz. And from there, Ward settled in. I know that wasn't that was a rough first half in that game, and then Virginia Tech ends up losing that game, obviously. Cal, I mean, he threw 53 times against Cal, 2-1. Louisville, 21 of 32, 4 touchdowns. Florida State, I thought, even though he didn't throw for a touchdown in that game, he was very efficient. Now, keep in mind, Florida State is a freaking disaster this year. But I think overall, when you're playing a defense with a lot of speed and a lot of talent like that, that could have been a game where they could have easily fallen into a trap and lost, and they beat that, and they won that game. 22 of 35, 62.5% completion, 200 yards. So basically, that's Will Howard numbers. His worst game is what Will Howard's been putting up for Ohio State. And then against Duke, 25 of 41, 5 touchdowns and a pick. And again, it's not like he's running. So this whole notion, I know it's already coming. He's not a running quarterback. Like, he's basically like, it almost as if like if Andre Woodson had a better arm, were more accurate, and didn't turn the ball over as much. I mean, it almost reminds me of Kentucky Andre Woodson, but almost better in every single way. Now, keep in mind, that was the Kentucky team that beat Louisville that year with the Bluegrass upset. So if you go back to that Kentucky team back then, that was a fun-ass team. So Cam Ward winning the Heisman, I'm pretty certain right now he's the favorite to win the Heisman. Ashton Jindy from Boise State's a hell of a story. So we'll see what happens there. However, the way I'm seeing it, if Miami were to go undefeated, I don't care if it's the ACC. If Miami goes undefeated, he's going to win the Heisman the same way Jaden Daniels did last year. The numbers are very similar. The results are almost very similar. Because, again, LSU played in the SEC, but Jaden Daniels was still putting up results. Now, as far as the draft stock goes, which is where I care more about, to be honest. I don't care about the Heisman. Is he QB1? Yeah. I think at this point, he's QB1. I mean, if Dana Brugler is going to come out and say he's QB1, you look at some of the other names, and, you know, Quinn Ewers has been hurt, and Texas obviously took that, you know, that L as it is. So, like, it makes it tough a little bit, because this is really, is it Shedeur Sanders? Like, I'm not sure if, I think there's going to be a lot of powers at bay if he's the number one quarterback. Like, PFF already has Cam Ward going number one. I'm just looking at this one, and Cam Ward is number one pretty much at every single mock. Shedeur Sanders number two, which I think they both have a... Yeah, I mean, Shedeur's good. I just think, like, you look at some of the talent in this draft, it's going to be hard for teams to take a quarterback over some of the talent available. Like, you're looking at a team like the Patriots that are bad, the Giants that are bad, and they have quarterbacks. Like, the Giants could just decide to stick with Daniel Jones. But realistically speaking, if Carolina gets a number one pick and they pick Cam Ward, I could already see the Cam Newton comparisons. And it's not even close. But that's how dumbfounding that the whole process is. It's early, but I'll tell you what right now. If Miami is back, Miami did all the things that Penn State didn't do. Like, yes, Miami had bad coaches. Al Golden, for example. They suffered through that. Cristobal. Now, they had to go to Oregon and convince Mario Cristobal to leave a program like Oregon to take that job. Now, keep in mind, he also worked for Saban at Alabama. So I think for all the... And Dan Lanning... And it all worked out for Oregon because Dan Lanning is better than Cristobal, which is bonkers to me. Not to kind of tie in that Penn State point, but I'm going to finish it up here with this. If Penn State wants to look at how to get out of the purgatory zone of being like a top 20 program and hit that next level, don't look at Notre Dame or Michigan. Michigan got lucky with Jim Harbaugh being an alum of the school and coming back and getting fired from the 49ers at the time that he did. Very fortunate that happened. USC, don't do what USC did. USC had a half right, though. You got to go after the guy you want. Now, who could replace anybody? I mean, you look at Miami, they got Cristobal because Cristobal was their guy. Does Penn State have any alums? Man, it's going to be tough, man. It's trash talk. But good luck to Cam Ward. I wish he went to Ohio State. Have a nice day.